All right, so today is Friday. It was a very long day at work. I did a lot of overtime in the last 2 weeks, so my paycheck was a little bit nicer than it would normally be. It's definitely been missing the padding that I normally get by working through lunch every day, but now I just decide on whether or not I'm going to work through lunch based on whether or not I can actually take a break, because sometimes it's not possible. And with that said, I was scrolling through my phone today and I came across this strange article about how job hopping is the key to success. And when I worked in retail a few years ago, I noticed that something that all the younger workers had in common was they were constantly job hopping. But it wasn't job hopping in the sense that they were moving to better paying jobs. They were job hopping knowing that it was just financially, it was just a lateral move to another minimum wage job. But I kept hearing this from them: I want to get paid the most money for being the most comfortable or do the least amount of work. And with people like that, it's almost impossible for corporations to depend on anyone being there tomorrow. Today, while I was looking around in the meeting, all I saw were sad faces of people that had been here too long. I'm one of the youngest workers for this company, time wise, when it comes to being at this company. But all the people that had been there for 5 plus years, and they haven't received a raise in the last 3 years. And the raises that they have got, the 50 cent raises, the 30 cent raises that we have got, they're not real raises. Giving someone 30 cents an hour increase in pay isn't for people that do the kind of work that I do. It's insulting to offer people a cent's raise, even a dollar to me. The first year that I worked there and they offered me $1.10. And I was like, this, you know what? You're not going to saddle me with the extra responsibility for a dollar increase in pay. So I just said no. These raises come along, they're not free, right? If they offer you a raise, on paper, they're offering you more. They're giving you more responsibility for practically the same pay. Some of these responsibilities are pretty high. Like when I got promoted into my current job, I was going to go from low level grunt to managing an entire area of the corporation. And that's what I currently do. And it's hard work to do that. Like, my job is sometimes extremely stressful to sit in meetings while people around you are talking about doing things, and you're kind of just like, well, are you ready, millennials team? Can you handle this? Can you do this? Can you do that? Are you going to be available for this? And you kind of just like look around. It's like, I get paid just the same as everyone else in this meeting, but I get a hell of a lot more responsibility than anyone else sitting in this meeting. So, anyhow, I'm off on a tangent. So let's get on back on script here. So loyalty doesn't pay in today's job market is something that, if you haven't figured this out, even if you're not Gen Z, the loyalty isn't there between you and the corporation and you. Layoffs, firing people based on scare tactics. I've read this for months, is that sometimes they just fire people for the sake of letting other people know in the company that you have no job security whatsoever. Sometimes it doesn't make any rhyme or reason for why you see a person that just got fired. Like today, they fired a guy with a name that I was just like, how do you fire that guy? Like his name was like Happy something, and I was like, oh my God, can you imagine telling someone whose name is Happy, like, I don't remember, like, it was a really ridiculous name. Like, no one that I know would ever name their child that. But they fired Happy. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't imagine having that conversation with a person and saying, hey, sorry, Happy, but we're going to have to do something unhappy to you. You don't work here anymore. And I, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. So, the idea that staying with one company leads to rewards like raises, promotions, or stability is outdated. Well, I'll tell you this from my personal experience, rewards aren't rewards, they're just more work. Promotions are more work. And stability in today's market, well, it is very outdated. We no longer have people who are working at companies for 20 years. This whole idea of staying in one place to work towards a pension and then getting to that 20 years and then retiring. I've never had a job that had a real retirement plan, a plan in which they really expect their workers to make it there. When you have a company, and I'm one of the last original workers at my current office. In fact, I'm the only worker at my office. After 3 years, moving towards 4 years, I'm the only person that was there when I originally started. Management has left, executives have left, teachers have left, administrative workers are all gone. Every department that was there, one of the first things that happened after I started working there is they had a massive layoff. You're talking about maybe 50 to 60% of those workers got let go. And they all got replaced by people that were working remote in other locations. So they didn't want these people here anymore. We tore down an entire office section with, I'm going to say, 16 cubicle walls and 8 offices with doors. And they never replaced those people. Around the corner from the front area, we used to have like 20 people that worked in that office as well. They're all gone. And the worst part is that they never saw it coming. So, this idea that loyalty leads to rewards or promotions, it's not true. And I'm glad Gen Z's figured it out before they wasted 20 years of their life waiting for the promotion that's never coming. Because job hopping in this economy is just what you have to do. And what's strange is that I was talking to one of my coworkers today, and he said to me, Millennial Stam, this is the only department that is free from instant terminations and layoffs. Because this department is so small that losing one person in your tech department would be detrimental to your entire department. Losing a person like me in this department, where I'm the hub of technology because I run the technology storage center, it would be like losing a tire on your car. You can keep going on 3 tires, but you're not going to get there very quickly and you're not going to get there in a very safe way because this job is tied into everything. Every single one of the 25 offices at this corporation ties into directly into me. And so we could lose an executive, we could lose a director, we could lose a manager, we could lose a president, and we have. And we fumbled around trying to figure it out for 6 months. The last time we lost the school president because she couldn't get a raise, right? So she ended up um, finding another job and then resigning, going on vacation. Then that was it. That was the last we ever saw of this person. But that's the way most people do it because even if they were to say, oh, you know what, we really need you here, we're going to give you another $10,000. Well, guess what that means? It means you're going to get $10,000 worth of more responsibility because they always have to justify it. Even though you're already doing a very hard job, they will find a way of justifying giving you more money because they're not just going to give it to you for free. They're paying you market value in their opinion. And we're talking about a job that should be making 30 to 40% more money. But they'll see who's going to stick around, right? Last week we just lost one of the guys in our area, and everyone acted shocked, right? Even my boss is like, "Oh crap!" And I was like, "Dude, you don't pay. Remember, when you don't pay people anything, the loyalty they have towards your corporation, towards the job, it diminishes greatly. Because remember, Eggs are $10 right now. When wages haven't gone up in 3 years, eggs are $10. I mean, I don't know how else a corporation can't understand that the cost of living has outpaced the wages that you somehow managed to trick these workers into taking. But a lot of it, and I tell Gen Z at my work this all the time, a lot of workers are trapped in that desperation worker mentality. Like even myself, if I were to walk into work on Monday morning and they told me, Millennial Steve, you don't work here anymore, I don't have anything in the office. And that's the scariest worker to have. When you walk into my office and you see there's not one personal item in that office. The head of HR walked into my office about 2 months ago and she looked at me and she says, Millennial Stimmet, it looks like no one works here. And I'm like, I laughed so hard because then she walked around to where the a senior manager used to work before he got fired in February. And she walked in there, she looked around and she's like, doesn't look like anyone works in here either. And I told her, yeah, they ended up not hiring for that position again and made it remote, 100% remote. How they made that job 100% remote, I'm still trying to figure it out. But those are the decisions they had to make. And the number one reason why they did that is because they couldn't find someone who would take that job of the senior manager for less money than they pay me. All right, moving on to talking point number two, the myth of stability and staying put. Companies like to sell the illusion of security to keep workers in place, but layoffs, restructuring, and stagnant wages tell a different story. I'm telling you, the amount of layoffs that I've seen in the last 2 months are insane. Security in a corporation right now is non existent. Stagnant wages are very common. This is exactly why Gen Z, when they come into a job, that's just a job. Remember, like I keep saying in all my videos lately, every job is McDonald's. And the last thing that McDonald's wants to have to do is invest more money in employees that are considered worthless. Wages that increase are for a certain type of worker. But you and I, the standard McDonald's workers, do not have any reason to invest in you. Restructuring, that's something I've seen at my company too. They just did a really large, extensive research on every single worker that works for this corporation. Every single worker was being stared at like a bug in a jar by people looking to see where they could cut, where they could cut and cut and cut. And the worst part is, once you're running your corporation on a skeleton crew, the skeletons aren't happy about it. Because this happened to me when I was working at a company in 2008. I walked into this company and there were 2 rows of 8 desks. When I walked in, the guy that was sitting on the far corner had no idea why I was there. He found out the next day that I was his replacement. And then there was one other girl that worked there, and she's still there. All this time later, she's still there. But when I started out making more money than she did because she'd been there for so long. And again, once the corporation realizes that you're not going to leave, the amount of exploitation that they get, that they can do to the workers that are truly desperate, that won't look for another job, it's amazing how little respect they have for the overall quality of life that they provide for their workers. Gen Z is well aware of what happens when you start in a corporation and things keep going up, but your pay doesn't go up. And the only way to cope with that, because you can't walk up to your McDonald's manager and say, hey, Bob, guess what? My kids don't have any milk. I need more money. Bob's just going to look at you like, you stupid prole. What do you think we got? We became a very, very large corporation because we don't give raises. When I worked at Walmart, It was the same thing. It was minimum wage. Don't like it? Get out of here. Because they want to make certain that they only keep the most desperate and dire workers. That's why they don't like single guys in the workplace. Because single guys and single women are the most likely to be job hoppers. They don't have any reason for stability. They don't have any loyalty. When you are a family man with responsibility, your loyalty is to your mortgage, to your children, to your wife, and their overall quality of being happy. Like for instance, today, I knew this was going to happen. So there's this one girl that works on the south building for me, and yesterday I set up a beautiful new set of brand new equipment, and I messaged her this morning because I knew she wasn't going to be happy. When I look at her, she's a minimalist. When you walk into her office, there is nothing in that office that's personal. Absolutely nothing. What that tells me is that she didn't want any of this stuff. And when I messaged her this morning, I asked her, it's like, I just want you to be happy in your office. And she said, Millennial Stam, I'll be happy with none of this stuff. Please come and remove all of this stuff. And I did, because that's just the way that some people are. And I've noticed that Gen Z's like this as well. Is that they don't want a lot of stuff. They they're not as materialistic as generations that came before them. And another pattern I saw, and this is just an observation, I was sitting at the gym today, waiting between reps because for some reason my gym has become packed. Ever since they closed the other gyms in this area of the same brand, more and more people are coming to this place because their local gym is closed because of the low revenue. And so the hardcore gym people are now at my gym. And what I've noticed is that Gen Z doesn't like free weights. I, I know this sounds like a stupid observation, but previous generations of fitness enthusiasts have always claimed that you build more muscle with free weights. Gen Z doesn't like them. Like I looked over, and this was one of the busiest times of the day in the gym, and there was open spots on the free weight area. There wasn't a single cable machine that you could use, but the free weight area was less busy than I would normally expect. And remember, I'm a person who's been in a gym for the past 20 years, often twice a day. I notice these patterns. I notice what fashion is in at the gym. I notice what people are doing. I notice a lot of things that a normal person wouldn't notice. And that's something I have noticed, along with the broccoli haircuts and the white socks pulled up to their knees. Anyhow, let's get back on track here. I don't think I'm going to have enough time to finish all four. So let's see. Staying in any job right now is career is a career ender. Again, Gen Z has seen this pattern because they've come into the workplace. A lot of Gen Z workers have had multiple jobs by now, right? Because they keep getting fired because they're not exactly what corporate America wants when it comes to the work ethic that they expect from their workers. These corporations are still living that old school lifestyle where they want you in the office 40 hours a week, no leaving early, no coffee badging. They want you there, even if you're bored out of your mind. They don't care. They want to see you sitting at your desk, and Gen Z's not about that life. So when they aren't getting what they need, that means that Gen Z is having to get fired and take their resume right down the street to the next company, get fired from there, and then keep moving. The great thing about this movement, and I'm not talking about your typical McDonald's worker that just stays, right? I'm talking about a person that goes from McDonald's to Wendy's to Chipotle to Taco Bell, always getting a slight increase somehow in pay. And this is, of course, a metaphor for Gen Z's work career, is that they're not willing to be a person like myself who's going to is going to be at a job until they fire them. Gen Z looks at the situation, sees what's wrong with it, and then moves in a direction to adjust. Other generations, regardless of what we're doing for a career, we're less likely to choose to job hop. Because, well, I was talking to my one of my coworkers that's worked at a lot of the big tech companies today. He said that the chances of me getting a better job with more pay are good, but if I go there, what happens if I get laid off right away? Because this is what happens to many people is that they'll leave a job and think that they have stability, but find out very soon that they just got hired just to fill a gap. And bam, they've lost their job when they could have stayed at the previous job and just complained less about the low pay. But, Gen Z, as much as I talk badly about them and their work habits, they are the generation that's looked at a system that's incredibly corrupt, that's very much so against what they want in the workplace. You're not supposed to come to work and have work life balance. You're not supposed to come to work and expect to travel. You're not supposed to come to work and expect to make enough money to survive off. That's what corporate America has been pitching for the rest of us, for the millennials and up. You get to a corporation and you have to adjust your lifestyle to a lifestyle in which it almost seems like you're not even generating an income from a job. Because there's one thing that I've learned is being poor while working is just being poor. It doesn't matter. Your job will never pay you sufficient for you to enjoy your life. You are a desperation worker for the rest of your life. That's the way I see it. Is that I've been a desperation worker since I was a teenager. No matter what job I took throughout my entire life, it's never been enough to significantly change my life. I have never had a job that would pay me enough for me to do normal middle class things, right? Go on a vacation, save money, pay off my student loans, do any of those things. It's just a job. And regardless, there's no difference in lifestyle between $15 an hour, $20 an hour, or $25 an hour. You're still going to be living at the bottom of society. And I'm so glad that Gen Z's figured it out that, oh my God, loyalty in this job economy is absolutely ridiculous.